Okay, dear participants, so now we will start our today's first
Recording
session.
in progress.
In this session, we are very honored to invite the Director General of HRC, Dr. Xu, to give us a presentation. Dr. Xu has long been engaging in the research and application of renewable energy and rural electrification. As project leader, he has also presided over a lot of national and governmental provisional level projects. Moreover, he has been in charge of many intergovernmental science and technology cooperative projects in China and other countries such as Vietnam, Serbia, etc. And this afternoon, he will share his experience and give us a lot of knowledge about the technology of renewable energy applied in the rural areas. I hope you will find it very useful and informative. So let's welcome Dr. Xu.
Good afternoon, all friends. Nice to meet you again. And this afternoon, I will introduce the technology of the renewable energy applied in the rural areas. And I will introduce the development of clean and renewable energy and the utilization of the renewable energy in rural areas in China. As you know, because the climate change, many countries around the world are actively transforming to green and low carbon energies, clean energy and renewable energies. Despite progress, however, the share of the renewable in total final energy consumptions, TFEC, is still only 17%. And by the 2030, the TFEC will reach 28%. And the renewable source in power generation will reach 57%. From the figures, we can see in different countries have different target for the renewable energy share. And the electrification in developing countries has made a significant progress. The proportion of the world's population that has access to electricity increased from 83% in 2010 to 90% in 2019. Thanks to this, the numbers of people without electricity fell from 1.2 billion in 2010 to 759 million in 2019. So now we all have more than 700 million people have no electricity to use. take into account current and plan the policies as well as the COVID-19 infected. 92% of the global population will have access by 2030. So by 2030, also have more than 600 million people without electricity to use. And from the picture we can see many years before, we use the energy is from the traditional biomass. And then we use the oil and then the gas and hydropower nuclear. Now we can use the hydropower nuclear and solar, wind and other renewable energies. And electricity productions now most is from the coal and then the gas and hydropower and nuclear, wind, solar, renewable energies. So most electricity is from the coal and gas and hydropower. In recent years, more than 60% of the new generations each year is renewable source in some countries such as Europe and the United States. And in 2015, the newly installing capacities of the global renewable energy was more than conventional energy installing capacities first time in 2015. The conventional energy means the coal, the electricity is from the coal and the gas. And by the end of last year, the installed capacity of global renewable energy totals is 3,064 gigawatts, of which the hydropower is about 40%, which the capacity is 1,230 gigawatts is the hydropower. And we can see the solar is about 28%, and the wind is about the 27%. The wind installed capacity is of 825 gigawatts, and the solar is 849 gigawatts. Solar is wrong, gigawatts. And others about 5% renewable energy is from the ocean energy, geothermal energy, and the biomass energies. And here we can see the renewable power capacity growth. As a near years, the renewable energy, the solar, wind, hydropower, and the biomass develop fast. And last year, the capacity added most is from the solar. The solar develop fast. And then second is the wind and the hydropower, and then the bioenergy. And here we can see the increase in non-renewable and the blank case is increased in renewable energy. So we can see in 2012, about in 2012, the increase of renewable is more than the increase in non-renewable capacities. The data coverage show the renewable shares percent, and so we can see that last year the renewable share is more than the new installed capacity is more than 8%. So in last year, the renewable generating capacity expansion slowly down slightly compared to 2020 because the COVID-19 and while still we're above the long-term changes. The renewable energy developed faster in China, the United States, and the share of the renewable in total capacities expansion reached 81% in last year. So most of the new installed capacity is the renewable energy. The upward trending in these shares reflected not only the rapid and increasing growth of the use of the renewable, but also the declining expansions of non-renewable capacity. So the renewable energy is increased fast. The non-renewable energy is declining. So most of the new installed capacity is from the renewable energy. But in last year, the non-renewable capacity continued to expand in Asia, the Middle Eastern and Africa countries. The non-renewable capacity continued to expand in Asia, in China, in India. The non-renewable capacity means the coal and the gas. The other main revisions has been an increase in the time series for off-grid generation. The off-grid generation became big one, increased fast now because the widespread use of the solar, the small hydropower, the wind days. Here we can see the renewable energy distributions of the installed capacity and the growth in different regions. Here we can see the capacity is in biggest one is in Asia. The capacity is 1,456 gigawatts. And the global share is about 48%. And just the near years, recent years, the growth of the renewable energy in Asia in recent years, all more than 10%. in recent years. The growth is more than 10% in Asia. And we can see the capacity is in yellow phase. The capacity is 647 gigawatt phase in yellow phase. And the North America is, and we can see in African countries, the growth is about 4% last year. Here we can see total renewable energy capacities. One is the world base, the total renewable energy capacity, and this happens is Asia, and the black one. We can see the black. This means that China's total renewable energy capacities. So you can see the Chinese, the renewable energy is developed faster in China. And renewable generation capacities increased by 257 in last year. And the solar energy continued to lead capacity as an expansion with an increase of 133 gigawatts, and followed by wind energy with 93 gigawatts. And last year, the hydropower capacity increased by 19 gigawatts, and the bioenergy by 10 gigawatts. Geothermal increased by 1.6 gigawatts. So we can see the solar and wind energy continue to dominate the renewable capacity expansion. Generally announcing accounting for 88% of all need renewable increased the new installed in last year. And Asia accounts for 60% of the new capacities in last year. And most of the new capacity is opened by actually in China, about 120 gigawatts is new installed in China. And also Europe and North America is the renewable energy is also developing fast. Africa continued to extend steadily with an increase of 2.1 gigawatts, slightly than in 2020. And then the renewable energy is included the hydropower, wind and the solar power. The hydropower growth in hydro increased steadily in last year. China added 14.6 gigawatts of capacity, followed by Canada with 1.3 gigawatts. And wind power, wind expansion continues at a lower rate in last year compared to 2020. The wind days developed faster in 2020, and in last year, as a lower rate case compared to 2020. China added 46.9 gigawatt pace of new wind capacity, followed by the United States. United States added about 14 gigawatt pace. While offshore wind remain fairly small parties of the stations, the offshore wind remain fairly small parties of the wind expansion, but the offshore wind continues to increase in importance each year and reached around 7% of total wind capacities in last year. So we can see now the offshore wind is developed faster in China and in the European countries. Solar power, total global solar capacities has now outgrown wind energy capacity. And we can see in Asia, the new installed solar power is 76 gigawatts in last year. China is the most, more than 53 gigawatts new installed capacity. And the India, Japan also many solar power have new installed. Biomass, the net capacity expansion increased in last year. The new installed capacity is 10 gigawatts compared to 2020. 2020 is 9 gigawatts. And now the geothermal energy developed fast. The geothermal capacity is exceptional growth in last year with 1.8 gigawatts added. And off-grid power capacity grows by 466 megawatts in last year, and then reached 11.2 gigawatts because the solar hydro power, especially the small and mini hydro power, developed faster in many countries and the biomass energy. And here we can see who is doing the most in the solar energy, the wind-based energies. We can see now the solar and the wind-based, the number one all is in China. China, the new installed capacity is in big Slovak, and the solar is followed by the Europe, and the third is the United States. The wind is China is the number one, and followed by the United States. And here you can see in 2020, the solar PV capacity and the wind-based power capacities, hydropower capacities, and the concentrating solar thermal power capacities and solar watt heating capacities. All these, the number one is China. And here is the new installed capacities, and the all installed capacities. We can see the number one also is China. The second one is the United States for solar. So renewable energy has played a role of important substitute in some countries. And in many countries, renewable energy is commanding high and important new field for economic development. So in many countries, the renewable energy is developed fast. One thing is because many countries to adjusting the climate change, just like I introduced yesterday, the Chinese government will strive to peak carbon dioxide emissions before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. And by 2030, the total installed capacity of wind and solar power will reach more than 1.2 billion kilowatts. The wind and the solar power will reach more than 1.2 billion kilowatts by 2030 in China. So, because of the climate change, we need the lower carbon and the cleaner methods. As the climate change. So, because the climate change leads to more exchange
正在踏上归家的旅途，期待着和家人团聚。重要的决定，新冠肺炎。2013年我们应对 SARS 的时候，它就是
and exchange temperatures. And now, according to the reports, we should over 2 million deaths and more than $3.6 trillion in loss in the world. It's because the climate
和
change.
人类的关医生身上的一种传统医学和
And from here we can see the global climate risk index. The global climate risk index show different countries, different regions. Will be some regions will be at the various areas indicative of the weather-related event, the storm, the floods, and drought, heat wave, the extreme temperature. And the report climate change 2021 shows in 2020 the annual mean temperature was 1.2 degrees above the normal. So because of climate change, the annual mean temperature was 1.2 degrees above. And the average annual global emissions of greenhouse gas. So many experts say the climate change is because the temperature became higher. Is because the greenhouse gas. So the average annual global emissions of the greenhouse gas between 2010 and 2019 were at their highest level in human history. The highest levels in human history. So if we went to let the 1 to 2 degree or 1.5 degree in 2100 yeah, if we went to limit to 2 or 1.5 different secessions. So we should sustain, we should substantial energy system change over the next 30 years. We need to use the renewable energy and decrease the use of the non-renewable energy. This includes reduce fossil fuels consumption, increase productions from the lower and zero carbon energy source, hydropower, solar and wind days, and increase use of the electricity and alternative energy carriers. Even at 1.5 degree of warming. Also, in Africa and Asian countries, especially in island countries, also the floodings became more frequent. We should limit temperature. also because the climate change in many countries like the food crisis, we can see because the weather is changed in last year. About 23.5 million people have the flood crisis. No food. Have the food crisis. So because the climate crisis, we must arrest rising emission now to ward off climate change. So carbon price within an integrated policy mix is one of the most powerful tools available for guiding the economies toward the lower emission path. Here shows the methods of the carbon taxes and the ETA system. ETA. Here is the China and the Europe and the Canada and the United States. The ETAs. And you can see the carbon price, the carbon emission, the price is become higher now because many countries need to decrease the carbon dioxide emissions. And in last year, China hosted the world's largest carbon market by emissions. The Chinese ETAs completed the first 4 compliance cycles in last year, and over 2,100 reliable power stations participating during this cycle, and covering about 4.5 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide last year in China. Of 2,100 reliable power stations, all these power stations is used the coal for produce the electricity, the coal. And here is the killing carbase, show how much the carbon dioxide is, and we can see the carbon dioxide is becoming higher and now reach 421 ppm. And the global greenhouse gas emissions is most from the energy. More than 70% greenhouse gas emissions is from the energy use. And you can see from 1910 to 2020, the human histories, because the human activities, so we can see the greenhouse gas emission more. And here we need two different scenario, different scenarios. We need to decrease the carbon dioxide emission in different scenarios. In the scenarios, we limit the temperature increase is 1.5 degree by 2100. And if these scenarios, the world acts immediately to deliver 45% reductions in emission between 2010 and 2030. Between 2010 to 2030, more than 45% reduction emissions should be delivered immediately. In the world acts immediately. And we can see the carbon dioxide emissions is from the industry, the power and heat plants, the building, the transport systems, and we should to decrease the carbon dioxide emissions. And we can here we can see the carbon emissions abatement from the renewable, the energy conservation and the efficiency, and the electrification in end use sections. And also we can maybe we can use the hydrogens and then CCS and CCUS, the new technicals for the carbon emissions. And here we can see if we need to limit the temperature is 1.5 by 2050. The renewable energy should be more than 74%. So, because of climate change, we should to develop the renewable energy. And now we can see in 2020, the share of electricity productions from the renewable in Germany and in UK and Germany, and these two countries is more than 40% shares of electricity production from the renewable energies is more than 40%. And other countries, all is needs 30% the share of the electricity from the renewable. And so you know the technology of the renewable energy is developed fast, and so the generation cost case will tend to fall at speeds fast beyond people's current expectations. So the cost is decreased for renewable energy. So here we can see the solar PV. The cost is we can see in compare the 2010 and the 2020, this is 10 years, the percentage change is more than 85% decrease, more than 85% solar PV system, just in 10 years. Here we can see the fossil costs ranges, and here is the geothermal, here is the hydropower, solar. So you can see the solar PV systems is the decrease fast these 10 years. And here is the concentrate solar power and other wind days and offshore wind days and the decrease. And now, the smart grid and the large-scale energy storage batteries will further push forward the development of the new energy, the smart grid power system, and the large-scale energy storage batteries. Develop fast. So, because the solar and the wind days is changed in the day and the night, so we need the smart grid power system and the large scale energy storage batteries to regulate the output of the wind days and the solar. And the renewable revolutions brought by shale gas and shale oil. Shale oil and shale gas output in United States has far exceeded the conventional oil and gas. Because the shale oil and the shale gas, the US has surpassed Russia in shale gas productions in 29 to be the largest natural gas producer in the world. The United States has surpassed Russia, became the largest natural gas producers in the world in 29 because the shale gas. And also because the shale oil and the shale gas, the United States from the imported country became out imported countries for the oil and the gas. So here we can see also in China have shale oil and shale gas. The shale gas is usually stored in the sandstone and the surface of our earth. The shale oil is an unconventional gas. Shale gas is unconventional gas. It's deep in the surface. In United States, it's about 800 and 2,600 meters and the surface. But in China, it's more deep. It's 200 and 3,000, 2,000 and to 3,500 meters more deep. So it's difficult to use for the shale oil and shale gas. So we can see because the shale gas is more deep in China, so it is expensive than the United States. So shale oil is a natural oil which hidden in the mud shale and reached the shore of the oil generation. The United States also transformed from the energy importers to an energy exporters through the shale oil and the shale gas revolutions. Even the largest oil and gas producers in the world. So we can see the difference between the Chinese and the American shale oil. In China, is more deepest in Earth. China has the third largest shale oil reserve after the United States and Canada, and the largest shale gas reservoirs in the world. China is the biggest shale oil reservoirs in the world, but because it's too deepest in the surface, and the surface too deepest, so it's difficult to use the shale gas. And after becoming the world's largest importer of crude oil in 2017, China surpassed Japan to become the world's largest import of natural gas in 2008. Here we show the largest scale shale gas project in China, now which has put into commercial productions. It's in the Fuling, the Sichuan province in China. The total output of shale gas is 40 billion cubic meters by 2020. It's a larger scale shale gas project in China. And I introduced that new energies, the natural gas hedged combustible ice. Maybe the combustible ice is the best replacement for oil and natural gas in the future. Combustible ice usually exists in the seabed or tundra areas, which have strong pressure and lower temperature. The combustible ice, 1 cubic meters of the combustible ice is equal to 164 cubic meters of regular natural gas. 1 cubic meters of the combustible ice is equal to 164 cubic meters of regular natural gas. So maybe in the future, the combustible ice is the best replacement for the oil and the gas. China found the combustible ice in South China Sea in 27, and experts first take the natural gas hydrate at the depth of 1,266 meters and what on May in 2017. China found that the combustible ice is in 27. After 10 years, experts first take the natural gas hydrate. And maybe the combustible ice will be can be put into the commercial use by 2025. Oil and natural gas, which promote the Chinese economic development. And the oil natural gas is being supplied from the Middle East, Africa, Latin America, and far away the China. So China hopes to get more natural gas from its own source. Because since 2013, China became the world's third largest suppliers of natural gas, just after the US and Russia. So in China, we needed to use the shale gas and to find the new types, just like the combustible ice, the new types of gas. Also in 2011, so we remember the Fukushima nuclear accident in Japan, because the nuclear accidents influence the global energy consumption. Many countries abandon the nuclear, and some countries take the measures of tighten the safety of the nuclear power. Also in China, after the 2011, China stopped to install the new nuclear power stations about 3 years. And after 3 years, we rebuilt, we started again to build the new nuclear power stations. So because the Fukushima nuclear accident in Swiss, Italy, and Germany decided to abandon the nuclear. And just last year and this year, because the energy is not sufficient in these countries. In some countries, they start to use the nuclear power. And in 2020, China's per capita power consumption came to 5,365 kilowatt hours, with per capita GDP is about 10,000 US dollars, more than 10,000 US dollars. This indicated that China is now at the advanced stage of industrialization. So in recent years, remarkable achievements were made by Chinese renewable energy development. The increment of Chinese renewable energy accounts about 50% of the global increase for the solar, wind based, and the hydropower. Here we can see the renewable energy over the world is hydropower. The hydropower in last year is about 40% in all the renewable energies, and the wind and the solar is each is about 27 and 28 percentage. And China became the largest new energy installed capacity countries in the world. And in 2010, Chinese installed wind power capacity was more than the United States as the biggest installed capacity in the world. In 2010, the Chinese wind became the number one. And in 2015, the Chinese solar power became the number one, the biggest one. And the Chinese hydropower installed capacity and newly increased hydropower capacities have been the top of the world more than 10 years. The hydropower is number one. All capacity and the new installed capacity, all is the number one in China. And Chinese solar PV systems and products accounted for nearly 80% of the world base. And many years before, most of the solar PV products is output to the America and to the European countries. And just near 5 years, more and more solar system is used in China also. So now the PV product is accounted about 80% of the world base. Usually, the renewable energy development is divided into 3 stages. Firstly, because many years before, because the renewable energy has a higher cost and the fixed benchmarking electricity price in many years before. First stage, because the higher cost. So we needed the fixed benchmarking electricity price. The price is higher than the conventional energy. In second stage, the new energy cost decrease, electricity price are also beginning to adjust accordingly, and the government subsidies are reduced too. Is in the second stage. And entering the third stage, because the cost is decreased, the price is the same, just like the conventional energies. So the government subsidies and supporters will skip this gradually. Just like the Europe, America, and China now is in the third stage. The solar and the wind days have no government subsidies for the solar and wind energies. And because of different national conditions, Chinese renewable energy development are also quite different. Chinese renewable energy resource and the market are distributed reverse. So in China, just in the east and the east-southern areas, in Shanghai, in the Zhejiang, Hangzhou, in Guangdong province, in the east and the east-southern province, the economic is developed fast. So the energy market is in the east and the east south. But the renewable resource is in the west and in the western northern areas, as in the Xinjiang, in the Gansu, and the Shanxi areas. So we need to transfer the renewable from the western to the eastern plants for the use. So long distance and large scale transmissions is the first to be affected in the current system. Now in China, the coal is the major energy source in China. About 56% in last year. In preliminary energy consumptions, in China last year, more than half is from the coal. Because the climate change, the environment protections, and the co-produced capacities, in Chinese government went to use the coals decrease. But for the energy the energy C is the first decided by the Chinese government. So now we have to use the coal energies in this year. And then the natural gas. In China, is about 8.5% in the preliminary energy is from the natural gas. And about 19.6 is from the oil. And then the nuclear, China is the late starters in developing nuclear power, and now have 53.26 gigawatts the nuclear capacities in China. And hydropower, because to exploit water resource is an essential means for China's secure its energy supply and defense the lower carbon emissions. So hydropower developed fast in China. Now we have about 391 gigawatts hydropower. Okay, we have list 15 minutes. We have a list. you.